Issue 19. Half full versus half empty. There is one thing that pessimists and optimists can agree on, that things are as good as they can be. But for pessimists, the implication is that, sadly, even the best is not very good, while optimists think any situation could be worse and may improve. How can two people look at the same object and one say, the glass is half empty, and the other, it is half full? Is there a genetic mutation at play here? Or is experience the deciding factor? As in explanations of most human behavior, the answer probably contains both aspects. In any case, for whatever reason, all of us tend to have either a negative or positive attitude towards most things. But does either predisposition have an advantage over the other? Perhaps pessimists are more careful and analytical and less trustful in their decision-making, since they want to leave as little to chance as possible. And, since their expectations are low, they may be satisfied with the outcome. Or maybe pessimists, who do not believe positive change is likely, would not even venture to try, while optimists would be willing to pursue unlikely goals because nothing is impossible. But they may also be rather slipshod in their approach, since they do not regard serendipity as their enemy, so maybe they usually achieve less than they hoped. So, perhaps that is why the great dreamers of history, who can imagine a better world, are so seldom the same people who actually bring about change. And perhaps, for that reason, the pessimists and the optimists are both necessary beings. What does it mean? 1. Genetic mutation at play. 2. Would not even venture to try. 3. They do not regard serendipity as their enemy. Comprehension. 1. Are people born optimists or do they learn their optimism? What do you think? Why? Is that also true for pessimists? 2. Who would you include among the great dreamers of history? Why? 3. As a practical matter, is optimism or pessimism the better attitude to have? Explain your answer.
Teen Talk. One. If your parents were too busy to take good care of you, would you feel sad or think it is a good opportunity to grow up sooner? 2. If your dad went through a red light or got a ticket, should he be angry or pleased, because otherwise he could have been in a serious accident? 3. Imagine that your dad claims that friends are more important than grades, and your mom insists friends are ephemeral. But college grades determine one's whole life. Could you defend both points of view? Who do you think is right? 4. How much allowance do you think is reasonable? How much do you get now? 5. Some of your friends want cosmetic surgery, while others don't think it is necessary, saying natural beauty is the best. With whom do you agree? What is the main reason? 6. Many adults think having a boyfriend or girlfriend is bad for teens because it hurts scholastic performance. But some teens think being in love is a good feeling and has nothing to do with grades. Can both opinions be correct? If so, how? 7. Some people say too much money is the root of all evil, and others want to have more money because the more money the better. Discuss both viewpoints. 8. Some say present happiness is more important than future happiness. Others insist on the reverse. Who do you think is right? Why? Opinion samples. 1. Almost every day, I am limited by lack of funds. I can buy a nice pair of pants, but the ones I really want are always a little too expensive. Though the sedan my family owns is usually a convenient means of transportation, sometimes we could really use a van as well. If I could show more generosity toward my friends, I'm sure I would have more of them. If we were wealthy, we could afford to give a lot of money to scientific research and other worthy causes. So I really can't understand why some people oppose money. Too much is always better than not enough. But my friend just said something interesting that I have to think about. She said, it is not actually the amount of money that's the problem. It's what people do to acquire it. The problem is valuing money more than humanity. Questions. 1. Do you feel that every day you are limited by lack of funds? Discuss your answer. 2. In what ways do people sometimes value money more than humanity?
Opinion samples 2. It is hard enough to find happiness in this world. Why would I want to deny myself a chance at present happiness to achieve happiness in some future that may never arrive? And, of course, the best scenario is happy today and happy tomorrow too. Just because I watch a movie instead of studying for a test doesn't mean I will fail. If I decide to eat an extra piece of cake, I can always exercise a little more and work off the calories. But sometimes I can see the point, I guess. Some of my friends smoke and drink alcohol, and they seem to enjoy themselves. But they all know that smoking and drinking are bad for their health, and someday they will be sorry for their bad habits. Questions. 1. Is there a balance between present and future needs and desires? How can one achieve that balance? 2. Do you currently make any sacrifices of any sort in order to deal with some future situation? Describe them.
Dialogue. What are you up to, Judy? I never see you anymore.
I'm just too busy. I have to go to school and study afterwards. I have to practice the piano every day. I'm working on a special project at church. I've got a part-time job. I need to eat and sleep.
You just need more hours in a day, that's all.
How do I manage to do that? 24 is all there are.
Just redefine your terms. If an hour were 30 minutes long instead of 60, every day would have 48 hours.
But it would still take me just as long to get all my chores done. But each one would just seem to take twice as long. That wouldn't help me at all.
Well, if the Earth would move to a longer orbit, our days would be longer, no matter how we divided them up per day.
I don't think that's likely to happen. And if it did, humankind would probably not survive. That doesn't seem like a very good solution to my problem.
It's theoretically possible, though. But your real problem is that you are just too busy. Even if the day were actually longer, you would just find something else to do to fill up the time.
I like to stay busy. I get restless easily if I don't have something to do.
Well, I have lots of free time every day.
I noticed. I know you don't study very hard, so your grades are quite poor.
I'm never going to college anyway, so why should I worry about grades?
Do you play any musical instruments?
Sure, I play the iPod, and my music is always perfect.
Are you still working? I know you used to bag groceries at the supermarket.
No, I quit. What's the point of having money if I never have any time to spend it?
With all the free time you have, do you ever volunteer any of it for a worthy cause?
I devote as much time as I can to the worthiest cause of all, making myself happy.
Well, is it working? Are you always happy?
Most of the time, but once in a while I get a little bored and I wish I had something to do.
Well, I wish I had the opportunity to be bored once in a while.
All you have to do is cut back on your activities. You don't need to overdo the busy routine. Do you want your tombstone to say, "Here lies Judy, she worked herself to death"?
You might be right, but I enjoy my busy life. It gives me a sense of accomplishment. But don't you have regrets about the way you live your life?
Well, maybe I'll get another job for a while and save up enough money for a new computer. Then I can get some new games. That way, it'll be easy to fill up any free time I have when I stop working.
Questions. 1. Should Ralph work more? Should Judy work less? What do you think? 2. Are you a Judy or a Ralph? Explain your answer. 3. How many hours a week do you usually have for doing whatever you like? Read and discuss. How much is X worth to you? Suppose you have X amount of money, whatever X happens to be. Maybe you would think X is a lot, so you would regard yourself as rich. Or maybe you would regard X as a piddling sum, and therefore you are poor. What would account for the different attitudes, since X is exactly the same in either case? Would it imply that you were an optimist or a pessimist? Or maybe would it be because the group of people you associate with would regard X as a lot of or not much money? Would it possibly be because of your circumstances or your aspirations? So, there are a lot of ways of looking at this half-full, half-empty situation. Maybe this is also why some rather poor people very generously donate to charities as a percentage of their income, and some very rich people give little or nothing. Questions. 1. How much money do you think you would need before you considered yourself rich? Why that amount? 2. Do you think you will ever make that much money? How? 3. Is there anything dishonorable about not becoming rich? Explain your answer.
Pictures talk. One. Questions. 1. Which attitude is better? Do you think believing something is half empty or half full? Why? 2. Talk about the merits and demerits of both attitudes. 3. Which category do you belong in? Why?
2. Questions. 1. A beggar insists he is happier than a billionaire. Why might he say that? 2. Panhandling is said to be a full-time job for some beggars. Do you believe that is true? Can beggars ever get rich? 3. Calculate a day's income for an average beggar on an urban street in Seoul. Is that a job you would look forward to having?
What's your advice? 1. My dad is too stingy. He wants to save money on everything, including my own pocket money. But I need to be able to go shopping with my friends, and sometimes we should be able to eat out or go to a movie together. I don't want to stay home alone, and I don't want them to support me. My family hasn't taken a vacation anywhere in my lifetime, that I can recall. And we don't even have air conditioning in the summer. All in all, because of my father's refusal to spend any money, I lead a pretty miserable life. He says he works hard, but doesn't make a lot, and he wants to make sure that, no matter what happens, his family has a place to live and food to eat. Of course, I understand what saving for a rainy day means, but I'd also like to have a little fun while it's sunny. What can I do?
2. I can't believe my dad. Is he naive or just out of touch? Or does he have some wisdom I don't understand? You see, he's a salesman and has done well financially even though he never finished school. So he tells me, it's not what you know, it's who you know that counts. He wants me to develop my social skills and have lots of friends. And he's always taking me places when I should be studying. But I'm not as outgoing as he is. I'm more of an introvert, and I like to spend time with a small circle of friends I feel comfortable with. But I need to study harder, and Dad just says I'm doing fine. Is he jealous of my success in school, or is he right about the unimportance of good grades? Can anybody give me some good advice?